Hi, my name's Jian Ye. I'm from Taipei Songshan Vocational High School of Agriculture and Industry. Today I'm going to present the topic Course Design for Cultural Heritages, an example from Longten, Publisher, Book 3, Lesson 5, Kyoto, the Heart of Japan. The students are 11th graders and the teaching periods are 5 periods. About students' entry behavior, most of the students are beginners and some of them are intermediate level, which is under CF4 B1, but most of them are around the level of A2. They're not so familiar with group discussion and presentation, and they prefer to work independently, and they need the teacher's assistance about writing and speaking mostly. And they're not really good at making description as they've not practiced a lot during the 10th grade, and they need more input of vocabulary to be able to write with sufficient and vivid language. However, they show great interest in the project as they're highly motivated and interested in communicating with Japanese students, learning from each other. The core concept of the teaching plan is about description, and here are the details that the teaching plan aims to match in the curriculum, which is mainly about oral speaking and writing. The teaching plan focuses on speaking and writing. However, listening and the training of reading is also incorporated. The purpose of the lesson or focus will be on the second paragraph, which is about the UNESCO World Heritage Building, and students are encouraged to use the sentence pattern be seen, heard plus verb ing or to VR. And about the author's craft, will focus especially on the author's intention of visualizing and the description of a building or a heritage. Here are the factual questions. Firstly, why is Kyoto the heart of Japan? And secondly, why is the Golden Pavilion Temple a must visit in Kyoto? And the conceptual question is that how does the author describe the Golden Pavilion Temple in his or her point of view? As for the debatable questions, number 1, which historical building in Taipei City would you like to introduce Japanese high school students and why? For debatable question number 2, which historical buildings do you think that we should preserve most in Taipei City and why? Students in this project described the building of the presidential office in Taipei. The goal is to introduce a famous historical building and its history to a group of Japanese high school students. The role of the students is a student guide, and the audience is a group of 6 Japanese high school students. And the scenario is that students should introduce Taiwanese culture and history to call for awareness of sustainability and culture preservation. The products and performances that students should form a group of 3, and altogether they should deliver a 1-minute speech. Write a short paragraph and create a PowerPoint file to introduce the presidential office building in Taipei City to a group of Japanese high school students online. They are also encouraged to include the vocabulary words and the sentence patterns in this lesson. The standards for evaluation is that for speaking, we focus on vocabulary pronunciation, grammar, fluency, and comprehension. You will see later in rubrics. And about writing, speech drafts, it's about the correctness of grammar and content. Here are the teaching procedure. Number 1, in first period, students should focus on the introduction of describing writing and the author and writer's point of view in descriptive writing. And period 2, students should focus on oral practice. They should describe pictures and role play. Period 3 focuses on writing speech drafts. It's about writing. And period 4 focuses on oral speaking training and making PowerPoint slides and teachers' assistance in guiding. And for the final period, it is about group presentation. This is period 1 and the teaching plan. Firstly, teacher plays the video of top 5 things to do in Kyoto to raise students' interest and have a discussion. And in the first round, we did a practice. Students compose, draw about a name card, which is similar to a mind map. They draw and talk about their general impression of Japan, and they introduce themselves. So, period 1 focuses on the factual questions. Why is Kyoto the heart of Japan? And we discuss about Kyoto and about the content of the lesson. Why is the Golden Pavilion Temple a must visit in Kyoto? We discussed about the topic in the lesson. And during period 2, which talks about and focuses on oral practice, students should describe pictures using the given handouts distributed by the teacher, and students should do role play. The handouts are the pictures about the details and different pictures about the presidential office building, and they should practice in groups and take turns describing the pictures and write it down, write the keywords or the whole paragraph down. And they do role play. And this is about the text. They're encouraged to use the sentence patterns learned in the lesson to describe the presidential office building to the Japanese students. And notice that the author highly focuses on visualizing. The author uses different adjectives and writes in his or her perspective. And notice that this is also what students need to do. They need to, from a visitor's point of view, they need to describe the building and introduce as a student guide to the Japanese students. Here are some students' works and the drafts. They talked about the details of the building. For example, corner towers, auditorium, which is about the inside, and the central tower, the entrance hall. And for the learning sheets, here are the rubrics for oral speaking, which is about vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, fluency, comprehension. Here is the learning sheet number 1. Students shall use the graphic organizers to talk about the appearance from outside to inside of the presidential office building. And the second one focuses on the history from then to now. Here are my teaching suggestions and my reflections of teaching. First of all, numeral A is about the incorporation of online digital collaboration motivates learning. Notice that I have used Grammarly and a little bit of Cool English to help students revise their writing. And also, I think that during the first round of teaching, it is vital to use Google Docs for co-editing. It's highly recommended, as students should observe other students' writing to have a bit of stimulation and learn from each other. And I've also used Cambridge Dictionary to help students listen, memorize, and correct the pronunciation of several words in speech. I think for a great English speech presentation, pronunciation is one of the most important parts that students should focus on working. And as a teacher, I have recorded the whole speech draft as audio files and uploaded on Google Classroom for them to listen again and again. And for presentation in class, I have incorporated several opportunities for students to present in class. I have also invited the rest of the students in class to give feedback, and I find it really useful. Numeral B talks about using authentic materials and engaging students in real-life situations to practice oral speaking. And this is the training picture of the group training. We finally selected several students to participate in the online speech. And students were really encouraged and interested in communicating with Japanese students. They thought that it was really interesting and they really wanted to introduce our cultural heritage, which is the presidential office building in Taipei, to Japanese students. And this is the students' work from the Japanese side. It is about Todaiji in Nara and their school trip. I was really happy and delighted to hear about their presentation about Todaiji in Nara and their cultural preservation about the historical buildings. And numeral C talks about incorporating sentence patterns into teaching writing and oral practices. This is the learning sheet I composed after, which is about describing in details. Students should, in class, they should, in groups, describe the pictures given by the teachers in the handouts and use the sentence structures learned in the lesson. So here are other teaching materials. For example, I've composed and taught the PowerPoints, which is about world news and about Eiffel Tower, Colosseum in France and Italy. And these are selected from Breaking News English. So these are about cultural preservation. These are students' work about the graphic organizers. This is our PowerPoints for presentation in the end. And the presentation was successful. Students talked about the exterior and interior of the building from outside to inside. They talked about arched corner In the end, students also talked about the present day, and the presentation was highly successful. Students enjoyed learning from the Japanese students, and the Japanese students also did a Q&A session together with us, and students also in this PowerPoint introduced about the present events in Taipei, about the around the presidential office building. All right, so you'll see more in my teaching plan. Thank you. This is my presentation.